The Harold Pinter Theatre, formerly the Comedy Theatre until 2011, is a West End theatre, and opened on Panton Street in the City of Westminster, on 15 October 1881, as the Royal Comedy Theatre. It was designed by Thomas Verity and built in just 6 months in painted stone and brick. By 1884 it was known as just the Comedy Theatre. In the mid-1950s the theatre underwent major reconstruction and reopened in December 1955. The auditorium remains essentially that of 1881, with 3 tiers of horseshoe-shaped balconies. History. In 1883, the successful operetta Falca had its London premiere at the theatre, and in 1885, Ermini did the same. The theatre's reputation grew through the First World War when Charles Blake Cochrane and André Charlotte presented the famous revue shows. Famous actors who appeared here include Henry Daniell, who played John Carlton in Secrets in September 1929. The theatre was notable for the role it played in overturning stage censorship by establishing the new Watergate Club in 1956, under producer Anthony Field. The theatre's Act 1843 was still in force and required scripts to be submitted for approval by the Lord Chamberlain's office. Formation of the club allowed plays that had been banned due to language or subject matter to be performed under club conditions. Plays produced in this way included the UK premieres of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge, Robert Anderson's Tea and Sympathy, and Tennessee Williams' Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. The law was not revoked until 1968, but in the late 1950s there was a loosening of conditions in theatre censorship. The club was dissolved and Peter Shaffer's Five-Finger Exercise premiered to a public audience. The theatre was Grade II listed by English Heritage in June 1972. Renaming. On the 7th of September 2011 it was announced that the theatre's owner, Ambassador Theatre Group, would be renaming the Comedy Theatre to the Harold Pinter Theatre from Thursday the 13th of October 2011. Howard Pinter, Joint Chief Executive and Creative Director of ATG, told the BBC, "The work of Pinter has become an integral part of the history of the comedy theatre. The renaming of one of our most successful West End theatres is a fitting tribute to a man who made such a mark on British theatre and who, over his 50-year career, became recognised as one of the most influential modern British dramatists." Recent and present productions: Steptoe and Son in Murder at Oil Drum Lane by Ray Galton and John Antrobus. Donkey's Years by Michael Frayn, starring Samantha Bond, David Haig, Mark Addy and James Dreyfus. The Rocky Horror Show by Richard O'Brien, starring David Badella and Suzanne Shaw. Boing Boing by Mark Amiletti, starring Roger Allam, Francis de la Tour, Elena Roger, Mark Rylance, Daisy Beaumont, Tamsin Outhwaite, Amy Nuttall, Rhea Perlman, Jean Marsh, Jennifer Ellison, Tracy Ann Oberman and Kevin McNally. The Lover, the collection by Harold Pinter, starring Timothy West, Gina McKee, Charlie Cox and Richard Coyle. Dickens Unplugged by Adam Long. Sunset Boulevard by Andrew Lloyd Webber, directed by Craig Revel Horwood. Too Close to the Sun, world premiere of a new musical about Ernest Hemingway. Prick Up Your Ears by Simon Bend, starring Matt Lucas and Chris New. La Bête by David Herson, starring Mark Rylance, David Hyde Pierce and Joanna Lumley. Birdsong based on the book by Sebastian Faulks, starring Ben Barnes. The Children's Hour by Lillian Hellman, starring Keira Knightley. Betrayal by Harold Pinter, starring Kristen Scott Thomas, Douglas Henschel and Ben Miles. Death and the Maiden by Ariel Dorfman, starring Tandy Newton, Tom Goodman Hill and Anthony Calf. Absent Friends by Alan Ayckbourn, South Downs, and the Browning version by Terence Rattigan, starring Nicholas Farrell, Anna Chancellor and Alex Lawther. A Chorus of Disapproval by Alan Ayckbourn, starring Rob Brydon, Nigel Harman and Ashley Jensen. Old Times by Harold Pinter, starring Rufus Sewell, Kristen Scott Thomas and Leah Williams. Chimerica by Lucy Kirkwood, starring Claudie Blackley and Stephen Campbell Moore. Mojo by Jez Butterworth, starring Brendan Coyle, Rupert Grint and Ben Winshaw. Relative Values by Noel Coward, starring Patricia Hodge, Caroline Quentin and Rory Bremner. The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, starring Sian Phillips, Nigel Havers and Martin Jarvis. Sunny Afternoon, Nice Fish, starring Mark Rylance.